Bonsoir tout le monde,
Good
bienvenue.
evening, everyone. Welcome to this regular public meeting of the City of Dieppe on August the 9th. We'll proceed with our opening word. Dear colleagues, let's have the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Once again, welcome to one and all. The meeting is called to order, and we have a quorum. Everyone is present. Some are virtual, but all members of council are present for this meeting. Is there any declaration of conflict of interest? Is there any members of council who would like to declare a conflict? None? Okay, nothing to mention. Let's proceed with the adoption of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Brito, seconded by Councillor Cadet for the adoption of the agenda. Any question? None? All those in favor say aye. Contrary, contrary minded, nay. The agenda is adopted as presented. That brings us to number 7, presentation, inquiries and petitions. 7.1, inquiries by council members for the Kodiak Regional SCMP. Is there, do we have any question, councillors? Mrs. Godbout, thank you, Your Worship. It's fun to see you in person tonight, officer. Lately in the city, we've had young baseball players who have been coming here, and there's been some copper theft. I just wanted to see what we can say to reassure the people about these things. That what are the actions that the RCMP is taking or to reduce the opportunities or the chances of this happening again? First of all, thank you, Your Worship, councillors, for receiving me tonight. It's been too long that I have not been here in person. But of course, the theft of copper theft is difficult. It does not affect only the city of Dieppe, but the greater mountain and the whole of New Brunswick. It's something that can be stolen easily. It's not like a vehicle or a car that we can trace down. So what we do is we work as much as we can with stores in town where they purchase copper. What is important is to remind the people, even if it's a small quantity of copper that is stolen, if someone tried to steal, please report it to us because the information that we receive is what can help us to target the people involved. And if we see there's more in a certain area at a given hours of the day, and what help us is when we can grab someone who has a lot of copper items. We have a list for the file. Okay, I have 26 rental, and often we are being insulted, but sometimes it can help us to go ahead with a file. And what is essential is for people to report to us. When they say it's only 2 or 3 wires, it's not important. Yes, it is important. So it's something that we work on. And you may have heard the term catalytic converter. Well, there's been up to 60 calls in the greater mountain. We're working on that also. Sometimes it's difficult because it's not something that is traceable, but it's something that we have to tell the police so we can build a file. And if we are working on something else, something that are more innovative, well, in other parts of Canada, then we can come and solve this one. Thank you. Is there any other questions from the councillors for the RCMP? Yes, Monsieur Latin. Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question for the famous speed in our residential areas in Amiro. It was mentioned at the previous meeting that some additional actions would be taken. And since the last meeting, I have received some text, some email that there's a lot of speed still in our streets. We know that that complaint keeps coming back, and it's been years and years. I know it's not necessarily obvious to solve it. It will never be solved 100%, but I just want to know if there's any additional actions that's been taken and what is happening, what we're doing. Thank you for the question, and it's good that I'm here to talk to you because there's new members on the council, and once again, it's important to report to the council and to us. Please complain to us. We have technologies that we can install in some wards, some areas of the city of Dieppe, and often there's one or two persons that will say, "Well, it's going fast in Charlottesville or wherever it is." Then we can put a machine that will capture it for a week or so, and it would tell us at what time there's more speeding done. And this is what will indicate to our patrol officers. And as soon as we receive this, this is where we open a file and we have intensive patrolling for 2 weeks. It's nice that you talk to us because now it's on Dover Road where we've received complaints. And the last 2 weeks, we went there, and it's not a place we go often, but the people have noticed. I imagine, oh, I have to slow down when I arrive in Cook because we've grabbed some people who were going a little bit too fast. It would be pleasant to be everywhere. We can't be everywhere, but if we can target certain areas at the beginning of the summer, it was in the Gaspé Street area. We were saying they were going too fast. We went there last year on Charlottesville. And what is good also, the the highway patrol unit in New Brunswick, they work all over New Brunswick. They came for 2 weekends to make a blitz in Moncton Review Dieppe, and they gave up to 200 tickets. And that's something that will help to prevent the people from driving faster by seeing an intensive presence for a few days. And they will come back with us, and we will send our own police to work with them to deal with these areas. Just one more question. Is it something that you can do at each meeting to give a report? And it's always in order to help us to help you and to be able to answer the citizens. Say, yes, there's more monitoring. And there be a small report that would say in the Dieppe area, so many tickets have been given out for speeding in the last month, and in a given area, there's we've given more tickets in what sector. In order to answer the citizens, sometimes the citizens think, I know the police are doing a good job. It's hard to be everywhere. I understand, but if we're able to answer the citizen by saying, maybe you don't realize, but there's been 200 tickets were issued, as you just said, following an operation to have concrete answers so that they will receive that certain actions are taken. Will never be able to solve it 100%. It's an idea. I'm curious to know if it's something that can be done. It's possibly something that will be done because each ticket that is issued, there's an area that is mentioned. Everything is electronic. We can say where the tickets was issued. At this time, if people are not aware, uh, all the RCMP 36 and all of New Brunswick, including Kodiak Transit, are online. the more important files are mentioned. This is what is happening in the community. Tickets are not there yet, but we're starting this technological approach, and everything will be available sooner or later because elsewhere in Canada, almost all the details on the kind of files are all there. It's something on which we can work for weeks, months, and years to come.
Donc, ça serait bien apprécié si
It would
pour
be
les
much
citoyens de
appreciated
pouvoir
to
rencontrer
if we could have a small report
parce que notre
each
société
time
moderne,
when we receive complaint from the citizens. We can
comme vous
answer
savez, il y a eu aussi
immediately by saying, "Look,
peuvent réaliser que des
at
fois,
least they will
ce que
realize something is being done." Thank you very much.
ce que j'allais dire, c'est des fois,
What I was going
c'est
to
c'est
say,
bien de
sometime
passer l'information
it's good
aux
to
citoyens
give
comme
the
ça,
information to the citizens because even if it was
euh, press release, là,
only a press release,
déjà, ça alerte les gens, puis ça les
already
fait
it
penser.
alerts the people and it reminds them, it makes them think
Quand on
to
sait
slow
que ça
down.
règle pas le problème.
We agree it does not solve the problem on long term, but it
C'est juste de
shows
faire qu'il est
that
fait.
something is
Ça
being
permet,
done.
ça
Yeah,
va permettre à des gens, oui,
it will allow people at least
de
to
savoir puis
know
d'essayer
about it and to
d'agir en
react
conséquence.
accordingly.
S'il n'y a pas d'autres... Oui, question,
Yes,
Madame Godbout.
Miss Gadbu,
Monsieur le maire,
Your Worship.
ma question c'est au niveau
My
des citoyens
question has to
concernant
do
bon,
with
les homeless là, qui se présentent au
uh,
Centennial Arena. Est-ce que vous avez
the
une
homeless
information ou
people.
une stabilité au niveau de
Do
plainte
you have a
des dossiers
stability, a complaint about Dieppe?
enregistrés?
We
Est-ce que vous avez
understand that.
des
Did you
informations
receive any information or any complaints concerning the city of Dieppe with the homeless citizens?
C'est pas extraordinaire, mais oui, évidemment,
It's
parce que
not extraordinary, but yes,
on s'entend que le plus gros du problème,
we
c'est
agree that the
le 2 km du
most
centre de Moncton,
important part of the
qui
problem is
s'appelle
2 kilometers out from
l'association
Moncton,
Centennial.
where the
Mais
people,
évidemment,
the homeless
plus de
people,
patrouilles,
but
plus de
with more
présence
patrol, more
des gens
presence, people
s'éloigner du centre.
uh,
Donc, on va avoir
go away from
des appels
downtown. So we receive
envers le Dieppe,
calls from
des
the
gens
Dieppe area
qui semblent
residences.
être perdus, quoi que ce soit. C'est
People
pas
seem to be
extraordinaire.
lost. Well, we do everything we
On essaie
can, but
d'analyser ces
to
personnes-là pour
try
voir
and locate
s'ils
these
sont en
people,
danger eux-mêmes ou
see
s'ils
if
ont
they
besoin
are
d'assistance.
in danger, if they need something.
Le problème
The
de
whole
façon centrale,
problem
c'est
of
un gros
the
problème
homeless, it's a bigger problem,
qu'on peut faire
and
pour
we
essayer
try
de
to see
trouver une
what we can
solution.
do
Mais on ne peut pas
to be
régler
part of the solution. We can't solve the
100%
problem
de ces gens-là.
100%, but
Ça
once
va
again,
tout à faire avec
it's
soit
like
le
everything
vol,
else. If it's
soit
theft or robbery
s'il y a
or
quelqu'un dans
speed,
votre quartier
if someone in
qui
your
semble délaissé, qui se comporte
area
pas,
is not supposed to be there, if someone we don't know,
on
let
va
us know.
savoir vérifier
That's all we have to do to check it out
à Dieppe, vraiment.
and,
Puis après ça,
take care of the safety of the greater Dieppe, Greater
il y en a
Moncton.
à Moncton
People
qui sont
arrive in
ici, mais ils ont entendu
Greater Moncton, they're
l'histoire.
not residents from here,
On
they
essaie
heard
de
story.
s'assurer que ces
Well,
gens-là
we want to make sure that these
sont
people are
sécurisés.
not dangerous and they're here for a reason.
Merci,
Thank you,
Monsieur Godet.
Mr.
Continuez.
Godet, Councillor
Oui,
Godet.
c'est M.
Yes,
Lalonde.
thank you,
J'avais
Your
une petite
Worship.
question
I
pour
just have a question
vitesse en bourse. Si
for
vous envoyez
speed.
des plaintes
If
qu'on
we
envoie
receive
à la
complaints that we send to
aux
the
gens
city,
dans son pays,
are,
envoyé à
are
l'envoyé.
these complaints
Oui, oui.
sent to the SMB? Yes,
C'est surtout.
but it's
Je ne veux pas t'enlever enlever votre punch, mais
I
c'est
don't want to
vraiment au
take
nom
your
du centre
punch away, but we ask the
d'entreprise.
people to call the RCMP
Parce que là, encore là, c'est
because
des
there
données
again,
dont
these are
ce serait
data
pour,
that they can use
dicter des endroits où faire patrouille. Fait que ça
to
serait utile
mention where they have to
Essayez de se
patrol.
rappeler
Because sometimes the counselors are receive calls from people. They say people are speeding or driving fast,
on me glisse un mot, puis après ça,
and
c'est la première fois que moi
they say
j'utilise
one word,
l'application pour
and the
voir
first thing I do
s'il y a
is check it
des
out
plaintes dans ce quartier-là, pour
to
voir si
see
c'est
if
correct.
people from that ward
Souvent,
have complained before. Often, what happens is there's
on essaie
absolutely nothing.
d'améliorer ça.
Well, we won't
Maintenant, si
ignore
vous le
that,
savez pour
but
vous,
If it comes to you, you share it with us. And the person has called before. Oh yes, there's a start to.
dans ce coin-là pour essayer de traiter ça.
We will
Il y a
go more
aussi
towards that area to do
comité du trafic
more.
aussi
There's the traffic committee also
avec
that,
Dieppe Review que les plaintes
along
sont
with
en
Moncton
cours
Dieppe
aussi.
Review,
On se base beaucoup là-dessus
that
aussi pour
can deal with the complaints.
Ok, c'est bon.
That's good.
Merci.
Thank you. Thank you.
Je ne vois pas d'autres
I don't
mains
see
levées.
any other hand
Parmi nos
up
conseillers
among our counselors
législatifs,
outside the building.
je pense que c'est tout.
And I think
Pas
that's all,
grand-chose d'autre à rajouter.
unless you have
Merci,
something
ça
to
fait
add.
plaisir de vous
Yes,
revoir
we're happy
sur
to see
place.
you on location in
toujours
person,
laisser des
Mr. Inspector.
indications si c'est
The
un
only thing I want to
après-midi
say is what I said.
vous appels téléphoniques, c'est
The
d'importer
phone
des papiers
calls. It's important to
sur des
report
activités qu'on croit qui pourraient être dangereuses ou
anything that
inconfortantes.
we think could
Puis
be
lorsqu'on voit aussi
dangerous. And at this time,
touristes, on voit beaucoup de plaques de
with a
Québec,
lot of tourists, we see a lot of plates from Quebec, Ontario, and elsewhere. If we
s'assurer
see
que
some
les véhicules
vehicles
stationnement
that are parked
vont être stationnés
in
à l'endroit
places where they
indiqué.
should not be,
Parce que
we want to know.
idéalement, il y a du monde qui vient
As I
ici pour les
said,
fêtes,
some people
qui
come here
respectent les lois,
and they
puis
follow the
on
laws,
veut les
but
rencontrer.
others are here for
On veut les
uh,
intercepter, puis
bad reason.
les
We
rencontrer.
want to catch them. We want to meet them
Très
and
bien.
act accordingly.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
Passez une
Thank you
bonne
very much.
soirée.
Good evening.
Merci
As
de
always,
rester
you're welcome to
jusqu'à
stay, but we will understand if
peut-être des choses plus
there might
importantes.
be some more important things for you to do.
Merci.
Thank
Maintenant,
you. Now,
présentation.
uh,
Est-ce qu'il y a eu des demandes, des requêtes ou questions du public?
any question from the
On n'a
public?
pas rien reçu.
We received
Alors,
nothing.
on va passer aux
So we will go
présentations d'aménagement pour le site
representation of the development plan
de l'ancienne aréna centenaire
for the former Centennial
atelier
Arena.
urbain.
Catherine Judo from l'Atelier Urbain.
Bonsoir,
Good
je
evening,
Charles
Your
Duval
Worship. I
Nadeau,
just wanted
présentation
to
du
make the
studio.
introduction to this issue.
Ça ressemble pas à...
You don't
Exactement, c'est qui?
you don't look
Bon,
like
ben,
Catherine at all.
personne
No, but
générale,
thank
membre
you,
du
Your Worship,
conseil
members of
d'administration pour
council.
la construction du duplex. L'aréna centenaire, on a posé
The Centennial
l'adoption
Arena,
de l'aréna centenaire
we
le
are
1er juillet 2020.
destroying it.
Donc,
It was started
on
in
avait
the
environ 10 000
winter of
logements
2020. We have
qui
10,000
étaient vides
square
et
meters that
disponibles.
are free.
Donc, pour nous,
So for
afin
us,
de planifier
in order to
spécifiquement
plan
qu'est-ce qu'on veut
well
placer dans
what we
cet
want
espace-là,
to
dans ce site-là,
place
on
in that
a
area,
procédé à l'embauche d'ateliers
we've
urbains
hired some
indépendants
urban
spécialisés
developers. We
dans
have
tout ce
a
qui est
questionnaire online
ateliers publics et du
and
développement
public
urbain.
workshop to
Ce
really take the
qui
pulse of the
constitue
population as to what they want
présentement
to
le
see
conseil.
on that location.
Donc,
That
c'est ce soir, on
so
souhaiterait vous
tonight
présenter
we want to
ces
present to you
consultations-là.
the follow up to these
Deux
consultations.
designs, je pourrais dire,
There's two designs
qui
that
ont été choisis par la
were
population.
chosen by the population.
C'est ça qu'on voulait faire ce
So
soir,
that's what we
présenter
intend to do
les concepts qui
tonight
ont
to
été
present the
faits.
concept
Et
that
puis,
have been
là-dessus, je vous laisse
done.
au bon soin de
And I
Catherine et
leave it
Francis,
with
je vois qu'ils sont ici.
Catherine and
Donc,
Francis, I think is
merci
here also. So
pour
that's it.
votre présentation.
Good presentation.
Merci, Monsieur
Thank
Nadeau.
you,
Donc, je me
Monsieur
présente
Nadeau.
Catherine Juteau
I'm
du
Catherine
organisme
Judeau from the Urban
qui va
Workshop.
faire la
It'll be my
présentation
colleague Francis that will make the
avec des effets
presentation
visuels pour vous permettre de
with a
comprendre
lot
ce
of
qu'on a fait dans les derniers
support to
mois.
see what we've done in the last few
Donc,
months.
tout d'abord,
So,
l'atelier
first
urbain
of
s'est
all,
mandaté pour réaliser un plan d'aménagement
Urban,
environnement pour le secteur
our company
centre-ville
was
de
asked
Montréal.
to
Et
undertake what
donc,
Monsieur Nadeau
il
mentioned,
précise également
and there was
en
something that is
priorité
sensitive
également
to the
tout ce
goodwill
qui
of
est
the citizens in the
logement.
sector. First of all,
Donc, je permettrai peut-être d'aller peut-être un peu plus tôt au niveau de la... Laissez-nous vous faire un petit rappel
allow
des
us
engagements qu'on a
to
franchis. Donc, le
remind you of
premier
what
qui a été fait,
we've
c'est un
done.
sondage avec des
A
citoyens.
survey
Donc,
was
beaucoup
done, a
ont
participative
beaucoup davantage participé
survey was done in the spring by the
au
citizens
cours
of
de ce
Dieppe.
processus.
And
L'atelier
in the
urbain
process, the urban
diagnostic
workshop
a développé
did the
aussi
diagnosis
également des principes
and
directeurs
also the guideline
donc,
principles.
les deux
and from there brought out two concepts following the different concepts from the comments from the citizens. Let us remind you the where it's located. It is where it's located, tit altitude, and it's west of a greater area, an area where we find some very well-known activities, tennis, musical, Uniplex Center. The site is crossed by Notre Dame, but is found in 5 minutes walk from downtown. If we look at the next screen, we realize the diagnosis that reflects what have been revealed by the citizens, but the specialists in development as we get closer to the site, which is in orange, always in the northwest area, we notice that the area under study is found close to a parking area. And there's a vegetation that is appreciated by the citizens, and also the proximity of the downtown, as it was mentioned earlier. There's also development of active mobility that is not far on the college road, a trail, but some trails that will join Uniplex also. And we must not forget the excellent use of community equipment that is used musical, tennis, Uniplex, but also the proximity of the schools in the area. In the next slide, we raise with the citizens the different weaknesses of the area. The space of gravel that is close to the site under study, but the size of that area that is quite limited. You see, it has some potential in spite of everything. As for the constraint, we notice the proximity with areas that are tennis areas that when are used, they're pleasant. They will remain there in the future. And a gravel pit that uh, comes to hinder the traffic. Finally, potential wise, what we notice what comes out from this image is the structuring part in the center of the park at the extreme of the site under study, but the part of traffic where most of the park is located, this axiom that is connected with the elements of interest create a height that touches with the site under study. So at the end of the questionnaire, some innovative answers were given and established the absence of consensus. Clear as for the program is revealed the necessity to have two development concepts. However, we want to raise elements that were consensus. The site close to the municipality. They must be inclusive, accessible to one and all, and to be used at all season. Must aim on the comfort of all citizens. It must be supplementary to what already exists, especially Uniplex. Parking could be completely withdrawn from the site, and notion of sustainable elements were there. Meetings were held, and we arrive at guidelines that will influence the program. So, as for the guidelines, we favor the safety and the accessibility to the center, as well as to big arguments to guarantee the vegetation in the area to have a coherent program to inspire from the sustainable practice and to favor the population all year round. So when we look at the diagnosis that is being presented against the weaknesses to these guidelines, that brought out, we obtained a series of intervention that will be part of the development and will find itself into concept. So we can find them here. We have on top established a bicycle trail at at the corner of Notre Dame and College and Notre Dame. It will they will be used bicycle. We have some trees to preserve for that. There is the exit of the parking that was part of the consensus. There's also the pedestrian and the main entrance to the park, and to establish a conversion central that could be influenced by principles of sustainable development, very strong, like zero carbon. As for this aspect, next slide, we presented an example of the reception municipal pavilion that could be inspire us to have a cottage that would be multi-purpose and could have high standard as far as sustainable, a public area to be used for seasons and would have its program, washroom, service area, and complimentary, and also an area to store some equipment. What I mentioned is what we will find into concept that you will see are different and on which we would like to hear your will be presented by Francis. Thank you, Catherine. So, yes, I will present the two proposals on which we work from the needs that were raised. During the first concept that I will present tonight is the one from the garden. It's a park that proposes some characteristics that are more natural and complementary. It's got in six unique subsurface. One of the component of the park is the educational facet that includes the cycle of the season, the nutritive but multi-generational aspect. The program of the park is in complement with the Uniplex, which is more on the east with a collective kitchen, the nursery, and everything on the outside. So, as for the structure, there is a trail network that is divided in six spaces. It's along the trail that we find educational aspect with panel that could also evolve according to the seasons and the themes. It would be possible to twin with our mobile education and could offer some other contents throughout the drive, and they could they're subject to be dealt at the vegetation, the importance of bees, the different species of birds, and so on and so forth. And as for the six subspace, they're created by the concentration of the time of vegetables that are found in the unique way in the park. Each underspace have its own unique yes, I'll go through them quickly. The first one is the Nordic wood area. We find uh, trees. This becomes very important in the winter with the long vegetable that keeps its leaves. We find a very intimate area in that space. Then we have the apple orchard, an orchard. There are apples, but it could include other trees such as prune or whatnot. That space become very interesting in the spring when apples start growing and they color the area. Another sub area we have the flourish area, especially in the spring and part of the summer when the lilac grow. It becomes very colored, very lively, and lasts throughout the summer, since it includes mostly some little trees. Then we have the fruit. garden, we find some small bushes such as strawberries, blueberries, but fruits that are less known, such as gadal, rosé, and a mélanger. We can make it known to the public. Other kinds of wild fruits that are not found elsewhere. Then we have the the space that is at the height of a space of it, really in the center of the park. It wants to be the elements that will link to go to the other areas of the park. That's why it's more open and less intimate than the others. But we find only one big tree in the middle that is a symbol, if you wish. As the majority of the concept is based on its natural qualities in this proposal. The tree will grow at the same rate as the park, and it's an indicative of the growth of the tree, but also of the park and the succession of generation that will accompany the park. We've thought of picnic areas in the park. These are spaces that are developed with tables to allow people to eat with their lunch, maybe even eat what they pick in the park, fruit wise and whatnot. As for the lighting, well, we have two areas that would be lighted for accessibility for main events, music car, the pedestrian, and the what we can see on the right and the left. We propose lit, with lights that limit the light and only the trails to limit that the lights become a hindrance for the people in the residences close to the area. We've checked with experts to make sure that the lighting is limited to the park per se. Then, as for the furniture, there would be one little house that would have a hammock, and that we could personalize these according to the space, as long as it's uh, the little house could have its own color depending on where it would be located. There's also bench, trail bench, to be able to rest. We come to concept B and second proposal. You will see it's an approach completely different. It's a scenario of sports park where we find some equipment, but sports equipment that contributes to the development of the park. We have a sensitivity of development in spite of the fact that it includes a sports approach. We found a want to adapt myself to different elements and have the possibility of having spaces of winter events to allow to use the park for the fourth seasons, not only summer. It lives during the summer, but not only the summer, but all year round. And we look around the cottage as to the aspect of service, and which is in the middle of the park. And sports says more as for sustainable development and the development. We had to plan some bio-intensive to allow some areas in the park that are weather development. We have three ball area, one multi-development for winter activities. We have one beach area, basketball, and everything that is planned for resting period and resting areas. As for the multi-season areas, we wanted to really the pickleball, since they're the closest one to the cottage, and it covers quite a large size of the site. We want to expand the public area in the winter in order to bring some temporary development for the population as chair laying, mini pot in the winter, and a small sled. And we just pick a ball in proximity to the life of the park in the winter. The extension, it is with this idea, the extension of public place that came the area of the interface delimiting the pickleball area since we find ourselves close to the public place of the park and the cottage. We wanted to keep some aesthetic, interesting aesthetic qualities to allow the players to pick a ball, a space that is function operational during the summer, and that they will not lose their ball while playing on the area. So this is why we thought of replacing the standard fence by a protective net that can be replaced when the summer is over by opening the space in the public space. So a fence cannot be removed. I talk about a metallic standard fence that we see everywhere. If we set it up, we can't remove it during the winter. So it does not contribute much to a festive area. That's why we're proposing a net that can be removed at any time. As for the management of the weather, we've been able to receive the water. And to favor the vegetation of the park, and that we feel very good in spite of everything. As for the lighting, well, the lighting is the same as in the concept of the garden, but we add the pickleball lighting and also the lighting of the public place of the cottage since the area will be used in the winter. It's in good practice that we should favor some colored area to help the area by having projectors to really bring some colors and life that could also be programmed according to the elements in the winter. There's also bench plan to allow the sports people to use it. We come to the budget aspect. Well, we show you here the summary of the budget that allows to understand the differences that are caused by the concept B, and that includes the cost. We've also integrated the cottage in this estimate. We've put it aside in the summary to understand. And since the cottage would be a full project there, that ends our presentation. Thank you very much. Now, question from the members of council.
Tu l'entends.
Monsieur Lantin,
Merci, Monsieur le maire.
thank you, worship.
Tout d'abord, félicitations. C'est une
Congratulations.
excellente présentation.
It's an excellent
J'aime ça
presentation. It's
entendre
very
voir
interesting
comment
in
est-ce
what
que
we
les parcs
find. I'm quite
sont
excited
développés.
by what I
Euh,
see. Now,
une couple de choses,
a few things.
à savoir, je trouve que
I
pour
find that
ce qui est le concept A,
as for the
euh,
concept A,
est-ce que ce serait pas beaucoup
would it
d'espace? On parle d'une
not be
ville
a
de
lot of
l'espace.
space? We talk about
Bon, visualisant dans ma tête, je pense,
subspace, and
par
by
exemple,
thinking about it in my head,
j'essaie de voir,
I try to
je
see
sais pas les dimensions, mais est-ce que ce serait
we
pas
don't
un
have
peu
the
trop?
size, but would it
Parce
not
qu'on n'a pas,
be
comme vous
a
l'avez dit,
little bit
en
much?
production, on n'a pas c'est dans les limites, là.
It's within the
Présentement, au
limit.
niveau du
One of
terrain.
the
Donc,
restriction is the
peut-être
limit we
ça
have
peut
at
changer,
the
je sais pas.
end
C'est
of
difficile
the
de
area.
prévoir
Maybe it
tout
would
ça.
be a little bit much. I
Donc,
don't know.
j'aimerais ça de voir les dimensions
It
des
would be
deux
interested to
secteurs.
see the size of each
Un
cell.
aspect que je trouve
An aspect that I find
intéressant d'ajouter, c'est peut-être
very interesting
un
to
système
add
d'eau.
maybe a water fountain.
Quand on l'eau, tout ça, puis
So
qu'on puisse
to maybe
penser
resting a little bit to
à des
hear the water flow. I don't know if you've thought about this. I must say that personally,
du côté sportif,
I think on the sporting side, maybe by
parce qu'il y a quand même une combinaison
there is a
avec le
combination
parc, si on veut.
with the aspect park and
Les arbres, c'est
veget
super important.
vegetal and
Vous
trees. we can integrate both very easily with resting time, with small trails. Basketball is super because I have a basketball area in my ward. A lot of young people use it. There's a lot of cars parked in the streets, and it becomes dangerous. So it would be good to have a public one. Pickleball area, definitely. People are talking about it more and more. I'm even wondering if we should use future space to purchase one area. It's becoming more popular.
Je suis pas certain
Beach, waterfall. I don't know if there is a request for that, but
s'il y a une demande, c'est excellent. S'il n'y a pas nécessairement une grosse demande,
if
on
there
peut
is a request, fine. If not,
éventuellement pour un
we
futur
could use that
propriétaire
space to
avoir
add
une location pour
more trees, more vegetation, and
demeurer. C'est à peu près ça
or
les
resting
informations
area. These are my comments, but
vraiment. Je comprends aussi qu'on parle d'un million de
I
plus.
understand we're talking about a million more
On s'organise
for
en
the
fonction de ça.
infrastructure.
Si on doit prendre un
Well, we'll
local,
find the funds
puis
if we
c'est
use that
intéressé parce que
approach. I'm
l'idée,
quite
c'est
excited
de remplacer la
because
Centennial
I
Arena
see
par un beau terrain
using the
baseball.
Centennial Arena by a beautiful
Voilà,
public park.
ce sont mes commentaires.
These are my comments. Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation.
Merci.
Thank you.
Je ne sais pas si vous voulez peut-être attendre à la fin pour
You
que
want
tout
to
le monde
wait
fasse
at
le
the
tour de
end
toutes les
to make
initiatives
a
officielles.
gathering because there's quite a few
Absolument.
hands raised. There's several
C'est M.
comments.
Boudreau.
Councillor Boudreau,
Merci, merci
thank
beaucoup.
you.
C'était
Thank you
vraiment
very
intéressant
much. It's very
d'écouter,
interesting. I was quite
de
excited
lire ces
to
présentations-là
read
et de
this
développer
presentation
vos
and to
chiffres.
listen
Moi, je
to
vais
your
faire à
presentation.
l'opposé demain. Je vais dire que le
I will
chiffre
be
m'intéresse plus.
I will say that,
Vraiment,
contrary to Mark, I'm
merci
more interested
vraiment
in the
pour
garden
les deux
aspect.
propositions.
But
On
the
avait
two
quelque chose de
proposal, we have something that
intergénérationnel
would
de toute
meet the
façon. Ça va venir se
intergenerational,
marier avec
but
la
either way, it
rénovation.
would
Euh,
marry
la
itself with
proposition aussi
everything
du
else. The
jardin, c'est vraiment
educational
intéressant.
aspect with the
Ce
garden
serait bien
is interesting.
de
It
regarder
would be good
les genres de
if we could look at all the
certification
certification that we could go
comme le
and get.
Canadian Wildlife
Maybe
Federation.
Canadian Wildlife
S'il y avait
Federation,
des façons
David Suzuki, their ways
des
of
techniques
getting
génétiquement, ça
some
pourrait
more
aider les
indigenous
ingénieurs.
plants
Puis
that could be
je
used.
me dis dans le centre aussi,
And I
ce serait
thought
bien
in
qu'on
the
choisisse
middle,
un
in,
arbre
it
qui
would be
aime bien
nice to
la pluie.
use
Puis
a tree that would
aussi,
have an interest
les
for the
lilas,
fourth season.
c'est un lilas qui est
The
indigène.
lilac
Les,
factor
les
is
lilas
one
japonais,
that
les
is
lilas canadiens,
indigenous.
les lilas
We
d'ici.
could go and get the
Euh,
lilac from the south.
ouais, c'est pas mal ça. Je voulais
That's
avoir vos
basically what I wanted to
propositions,
say.
puis de voir
Congratulations.
comment
I'm
on va
excited to
développer
see
ça.
what will be the follow up to this. Thank you.
Merci.
Thank you,
Monsieur le conseiller Thibodeau.
Councillor Thibodeau.
Merci, Monsieur le maire.
Thank you, Worship.
Moi, j'ai beaucoup aimé les deux présentations,
I
les deux concepts.
enjoyed
C'est très
both
intéressant.
concepts. It's very
Je ne
interesting.
sais pas sur lequel je
I will
préférerais.
not say which one I prefer
Si on avait deux terrains,
because if we
j'aimerais
had two property, I
pouvoir
would like to have both of them
contribuer à
uh,
parler de
developed.
consultation.
You talk about consultation. You consulted the
J'aimerais
people at the end.
savoir
I
si,
would like to know
s'il y avait
if
des gens qui penchaient beaucoup plus pour le
some
concept
people were leaning towards one concept
j'ai
or the
j'ai
other,
ce
or
concept-là
did you create
que
these
je
concepts
pense
from all the ideas that were
davantage à
that came out of your
alors, c'est ça ma question.
survey? That's my question.
Ben, je peux peut-être répondre à ça,
Maybe I
Monsieur le
can
Maire.
answer this one, Mr.
La
Thibodeau.
raison pourquoi on a
The
créé
reason
les deux
why
concepts, justement,
we
c'est
created the two concept
c'est
is that
environ moitié-moitié chez
it
ceux qui
was
sont
half and half, if I can
intéressés
say.
à
There was the
m'intéresser
sport
plus au
aspect, but
jardin
there was the
et
side more
c'est
garden
la raison
or
pourquoi on a demandé
vegetation.
deux
And that's
concepts
the
parce qu'on
reason
voulait
why
pas
we
tenter juste un seul
asked for two
concept
concepts. We didn't want
donc,
to decide on our own with one
pour
concept. That's
les
why
propriétaires
we
de
asked the
présenter
people
les deux concepts
to
et de
present the two
discuter
concepts
avec
that came out
des gens. Fait que
from the people's
Un autre
answer.
commentaire,
Another
euh,
small comment.
on nous a présenté le chef
When when they presented the cottage, I found that with everything that we said we could do with that cottage, it's a little bit small. Maybe we should have it a little bit larger, if it's possible, if we want to make it useful for everybody.
Ok. Merci, Monsieur le
Thank
conseiller.
you. Thank
Maintenant,
you,
c'est le
Councillor. Now,
fonctionnaire Leboutillier.
Councillor Leboutillier, Madame Leboutillier.
Merci, Monsieur le maire.
Thank you, Worship.
Donnez-moi toutes les
Well,
infos que
listen,
tout le monde
the
en
same
parle.
as everybody else, when I saw that, I said, wow.
J'aimerais vraiment
Well,
qu'on voit les deux
when I
projets
see the two, I would like to have
quand je
both.
regarde
And when I look, would like to have a
je pense
hybrid
que
of
la
both. And
priorité,
I'm
c'est
pretty
d'avoir
sure
un
there are
complexe
spaces in the sports.
d'habitation dans les coins
Could we integrate the garden with sports since our
intergénérationnel.
intergenerational complex, the
Puis,
uniplex, is so close to it? Well, the idea of bringing the sports aspect so close and with our vision of sports tourism integrate itself, there's a nice cohesion with the whole thing. When I look at the whole sphere equipment and park of your garden with uh, the bench could easily be included in the sports event with everything else. And since we look at our tourism, sports tourism, and the people from the Pickleball Association, well, because before this presentation, I just look quickly at the pictures of the pickleball uh, area and the size we could have several areas. It's hard to have a tournament without several fields. Once again, it's only a suggestion, by the way, and we can bring them together because these probably are one on top of the other. When I look at volleyball on the peninsula, there are tournaments everywhere on beach. It's not costly. It can be amended, and it's fun. And if we look at tourism, sports with tourism, maybe you need two property if ever we wanted to have some tournament during the season without too much of a larger area. While you are the experts of design, I'm only looking at it, but look, it's very well, and we are a very on a good approach. Thank you very much. Bravo,
Merci beaucoup,
congratulations. Thank
conseiller.
you, Mrs. Councillor Goodboy. Thank you.
Bravo, j'adore les informations que vous nous avez
I
données.
enjoy the
Les idées sont
information you've
vraiment
given. The two ideas are very good and
un
have
défi
great values. I
de
think
rôle
the
pour nous de
challenge
percevoir
for
la
us would
parole
be to see
des projets
how
que
these
ce
two
projet
projects
s'en vient de
can
servir. Merci
complement
à tous pour
itself
ces promesses
with
vraiment
our recreational master plan.
positives.
What I like in the
Propositions
presentation, you give us a
spécifiques
lot of
venir
options for our
nous
employees
bâtir ce qu'on peut
to come and see what
qu'est-ce qu'on
we
peut intégrer
can
quand on intègre
include and what can supplement
un
our
équipement.
master plan that we have for the
Disponible.
city.
Aussi,
A few things to be considered when
l'infrastructure
I
technique
look at an
et
infrastructure, something
informatique.
new that we're
Pour moi,
placing in the
c'est
city, how
lien avec
these things can interact
mesures d'urgence plus tard.
with our
Comment est-ce que ça
emergency
peut fonctionner avec des arbres
action later
pour
measures. How
des
can they
protéger les
be
arbres
used? How the
si on
trees
veut
and everything else can use for
quand il fait chaud dans l'hiver.
maybe when it's very hot in the summer, how they can be used for maybe for
On peut
hiding or secondary role that can be used.
j'aime aussi l'idée de la
I like
proximité
the idea of the
aux
proximity to
installations
schools
multiples et
and
qui
multiple
permet
use
des
by several of our citizens. The
ce
options
qui
that
tient
were
aussi
presented,
en
what I
faveur des locataires,
keep
c'est
from the comments of
la
other
collectivité.
counselors, I won't
On est
repeat
là
them
pour
all, but we know
le danger de ne pas essayer de trop
the
faire de
danger of trying to do too much with a small
l'architecture
area. And I come back to say,
faire dans le
well, we want to see how this will be included in the master plan. The ideas are good, they're very good, and I thank the team that prepared it.
Merci, Madame la
Thank you.
conseillère Turgeon-Roy.
Merci beaucoup.
Councillor Turgeon Roy.
Allons-y, allons-y aussi.
Bravo, the same thing for the
C'est très
proposal. It's
positif.
excellent. It's very good.
Ma question est peut-être pour
My
Jason.
question, maybe for
Qu'est-ce qui est
Jason.
présent là, au
In
niveau
the
du
vision and
consensus?
program, we have the vision, and we were
Qu'est-ce qui
supposed to bring
veut
the elements of
amener
consensus. We say that the city has retained
des
the
positifs?
elements that were repeated
On est
in the
spécifique
survey,
sur
and we
le
mentioned also that the development of a new community was not retained. What does that mean? The community approach was not retained.
J'aurais une question.
Ouais. Je
Good
peux
question.
Oui,
peut-être
vas-y.
répondre, Monsieur Nadeau. En fait, c'est que dans les commentaires qui avaient été soulevés par les
The
citoyens,
comments that were
il y avait
raised by the
envie
citizens,
de
there
faire
was
une
a
construction de
request
bâtiments
of a
communautaires.
building
Et
of
puis, ça avait été
community
soulevé comme
uh,
un bâtiment culturel, un bâtiment qui serait
cultural building or
une
something
pièce
that would be
autonome
the
dans
same as the
lequel
Uniplex, but
dans lequel les
differently,
parents pourraient mettre
or a
leurs
building
enfants
that could receive some sports
et
inside
l'administration
sports equipment.
suggérait que la
And the
possibilité de
management,
construire
the administration
un
said the
bâtiment aurait
possibility of
été
building
des déplacements
with activities,
selon les décisions qui ont été prises au niveau de l'administration.
considering the different decisions that were
Merci beaucoup.
made. I understand now. Thank you.
Merci. Je ne vois pas
Thank you. I
d'autres.
don't see any other hands raised. So
Merci pour
thank you
la
very much for
présentation
your
et
presentation.
le feedback que vous avez
I think the
reçu
feedback
lors
that
de
you've
vos
received
entrevues
from the members of council uh,
est une expression de
is an
satisfaction
expression of
générale.
satisfaction, generally
Difficile choix à
speaking,
faire dans les
and
mois
difficult choice to
qui
make
suivent.
in months to come. Thank you very
Merci.
much. Thank you. Thank you.
Merci, bonsoir.
Good night.
Prochain item,
Next
audition
item,
publique, on a déjà dit. Audience publique, confirmation de
public
l'audition
hearing,
souhaitée. Monsieur Alexandre Girard, bonsoir.
amendment to conditions. Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. Good evening. So we are presently in public hearing. Before I begin the public hearing, I'll share my screen. You see the screen?
Oui.
Yes. Good. So, as it was mentioned, we're in public hearing. For those that are not familiar with what a public hearing is, it's essentially a presentation that is required by the Planning Act in relation with an application to have an amendment with a zoning bylaw. This is an application that was made in relation to amend certain conditions of the bylaw, zoning bylaw Z 2841 that was carried a few years ago. I'll go through the details of the proposed amendment or the application as such, and we can have an opportunity for the members of council to ask questions and also to see other things in relation with comments that we may have received from the public. So, and before I begin, I would like to mention the fact that the applicant is online with us. If the councillors want to ask the representative who made the application directly, you can do so. So, the owner and the applicant, Sobeys Kit Lane, and we talk always about a portion of the pin 706R08, and the property is located on the eastern side of Dieppe and north of Evan Street. And I'll have a map to better locate you later on. Here is the process for the amendment of the bylaw or the conditions on the June the 20th, 2021 adoption was to entertain the legal aspect of amendment and a public hearing, and also by establishing a date to hear the pack. There were notice people on our website to invite, to inform the citizens of this public hearing. So on August the 9th, we're in public hearing. The next step following this public hearing on August the 18th, where the file will be presented to the members of the PAC for their consideration and also for an official recommendation. And in September, the council can make a final decision on the file. So it is to be noted today is simply a presentation. There's no decision made tonight. There's no recommendation that will be made either. It's simply we present the information that has to do with the application. Finally, the map to locate the site, as mentioned, the property is located at the corner of Ivan and Dieppe Boulevard. A few dates to put you in context. In 2015, we had the adoption of bylaw number Z 841 with several amendments that were adopted in relation with that bylaw to structure the project. It's a project that it's a commercial project with the Sobeys and others commercial stores. In 2016, there was an amendment brought to the site that was brought. The new plan was amended in 2018. The Sobeys had an application to amend the condition 4 and 5 to push off the date to for two building located on the title plan. It was to push it to 2021, and in 2021, the application is once again to push off that date or even eliminate it. So, in an informal way, before you receive the recommendation, the staff of the planning and development area will see a good opportunity to simply eliminate the date at the beginning for the building A and E that I will show you on the next slide. By eliminating the date, it changes. It doesn't change the development on the site. It does not change the other conditions that were adopted with this kind of development and the bylaw per se. We could simply remove a date to complete this. If the council so wish to remove the dates, we can do so. If you want to push back the dates, it's with building A and building E. So essentially, the application that is presented in front of you today. So and once again, a reminder of the procedure to change the condition of this bylaw. Any question? Question, Monsieur Thibodeau.
Merci, Monsieur le maire.
Your worship.
Oui, j'ai une
Yes,
question.
I have one
Si la
question.
condition le veut, mais toutes les autres
This
conditions que vous
condition
avez mises
changes, but all the other
dans
conditions,
ce
when we approve
projet,
this,
est-ce que toutes les
uh,
autres
the,
conditions
are
tiennent
all the
aussi
other conditions still a go? Yes. The objective here is to simply eliminate the date to start or ends that did for the building A and E, and that's it. As mentioned, uh, the staff of the PAC, we don't see the necessity of having that date, but we can see why it would have been put there in 2015 to have a certain certainty. But here again, the concept of the day had really established everything that mentioned the location of each building. And there used to answer your question, Councillor Thibodeau, is all the other conditions are remaining the same.
est-ce que vous avez
And
des objections de
did
quelqu'un
you
qui
receive
aurait
objections from people
non?
I understand. No, nobody. We did not receive any objections.
Oui, petite question.
Small question.
Le bâtiment A,
Building
est-ce
A.
qu'ils ont modifié
Did they
l'aménagement
change the
pour
development?
l'entrée ou débarquement
Because
des
the
camions et
entrance
pentes? Est-ce
for
que ça s'est
the
bien
truck
fait
entrance, if I
ou c'est la même
remember,
place?
it was not exactly the same place. The plan that dates back to 2016 is not changing. It did not change. It's the same plan that was adopted in 2016. Nothing changes.
OK, d'accord, merci bien.
Fine. Thank you very much.
Merci, Monsieur le conseiller Brideau.
Thank you, Councillor Brideau.
Merci, le Président.
Thank you, Worship.
Monsieur Gérard, le
Monsieur
but de cet
Girard,
exercice-là, c'est d'enlever la date.
this exercise is to change the
On l'a
date.
déjà, on l'a déjà
We
permis une extension.
have already allowed an extension,
C'est
so
une fois ou deux fois qu'on l'a déjà
once or twice. So I mean, we've changed the date on a few occasions. Yes, that's it. Am I wrong? No, no, you're right. It's not the first time that the requests have been made to change the date, and the applicant made the same request, but with no date in mind. So here, as I mentioned, we don't see the necessity of maintaining this date on a long-term basis, but if the council wants to keep a date, it's up to you. Or you can fix one, and
Leur but est toujours
their
de
purpose
compléter.
is to they want to build. I think so. It's a good question for the representative of Sobeys. If he wants to talk, he's here. In my opinion, their intention are not changing, and it on the long term it would be to develop the site. But I may ask Phil, the representative for Sobeys, if he wants to talk. Phil, Busby, do you want to say something?
Yes, thank you, Alex. I think from Sobeys' perspective, it is absolutely our intent to build a food store on this property. When that is, I cannot guarantee you what that date will be at this point. I think in the last couple of years, there's been some changes with consumer behaviors, with strategies, with our network strategies that have forced us to um, focus our business operations in certain areas in certain parts of the country. Particularly COVID the last year changed a lot of things for our business, uh, which I think is pretty self-explanatory. So I think it's absolutely still our intent to build a food store on this property, which is why we've requested the zoning to remain in place. Um, it's just there's a little bit of uncertainty right now as to when that will happen.
Thank you. Merci. Thank you very much. Autre question?
Any other question?
Monsieur Lantaigne.
Monsieur Lantin,
Merci, Monsieur le maire.
thank you, Worship.
Je juste faire comprendre qu'est-ce
I
qui
want to
fait
understand
que
what
passage
would be the advantage or the
soit repousser la date
to push
pour que
off the
tu
date
puisses
by
éliminer
opposition to eliminate it
le délai.
altogether, the deadline. What would be the pros and cons? Well, as far as development is concerned, and the staff from the development and planning area, we don't see the advantage of keeping a date. The project has been well prepared, well structured at the time with the title plan. The only thing that puts some weight to have a date, it becomes a condition. And if the applicant does not respect the condition, the council has the power to bring back the area in its original status. Act 3. Act 3 does not allow any development, business or commercial development or grocery. Then we'd have to go through a whole new process of rezoning, and that would bring another uncertainty because at the present time, the sector in question, as far as we know, there's no other conditions that will change. We talk about a date and nothing else. We don't ask to change the building, to widen it, or to make it smaller. At this time, the conditions are very good, and that's the reason why we don't see the necessity to maintaining a date.
C'est là ma question, c'est que
That's my question.
peut-être je comprends pas bien, mais
Maybe I don't understand
la façon que
well,
je le
but
vois, c'est
the
si
way I see it is if we were to decide not to maintain
plus de recours,
date,
on n'a
then
plus de revenir en arrière.
we can't
Si on met date,
come back
toujours
on it if we have a date while we still have
c'est ça.
the last word.
Donc c'est pas notre, selon moi, c'est pas notre avantage de ne pas
It's
mettre de
not to our
date.
advantage of not having a date because then we won't have any possibility of coming back on it one day again. If we look at what happened in the past, if we put another date, we push it back in 2 years, well, we risk of repeating the same scenario. Would the applicant come back with another request to push the date? I mean, the process goes on forever. Here again, the council can certainly maintain the date or maintain the date as a condition,
Mais
but
ouais, moi, mon inquiétude, par contre, c'est que
my
si
concern is that if we don't have a date
dans 5 ans de
in
ça,
5 years from
ça
now,
part, puis les
nothing happened,
possibilités,
there is a
il y a la
possibility
possibilité d'autres développements qu'il faudrait
of
raisonner.
other
On peut-tu
development.
faire ça?
Can we do that? I did not understand the last part of your question. What was it
Si on n'a
again?
pas de
I
date,
say if we don't have a date,
ça laisse
okay,
libre
it
aux
it
propriétaires de
leave
faire
it to
vraiment
the
comme ils veulent. Puis dans
applicant.
5, 10 ans, il ne s'est rien
If in
passé.
5 or 10 years nothing
On n'a aucune
happened
idée.
and we had other opportunities, is
C'est
there
ça
a way
que
for
c'est
us
là
to
où
come back
je
and
dis que
rezoning it
selon moi,
or
non.
taking it back? No, no. The rezoning will remain in effect. At the present time, if we make a comparison with the other properties that are located on Dieppe Boulevard, the majority of them are zone CM. So CM zoning allow the development of a grocery store or building a retail store. So generally speaking, the fact of having a date will not stimulate the development uh, faster. I can see your question as to if the council wish not to have a date, while they don't have a recourse to really force Sobeys to develop immediately. But for us, the land is already zoned to accommodate the development, and the fact of having a date will not necessarily make it faster unless the council want to impose a real condition. If it's not built, then we will bring it back to R3. So you have the opportunity to do so at the present time if you
Sans
so
vouloir
wish,
restreindre la
without
discussion,
wanting to limit the
je
discussion.
juste rappeler à tout le
I
monde
just
que
want to remind
le
everybody
dossier va aller au
the file
PSU
will go back to
et
the
aux
PAC,
spécialistes en urbanisme
to the Planning
et
Advisory Committee, and they
faire une
will
recommandation.
make a recommendation.
Alors,
So
on continue.
we can,
Des
if you
questions
have questions
qui n'ont pas été demandées, ben,
that have
pas de
not been
problème.
asked, I encourage you to ask them.
Monsieur Mélenchon voulait intervenir également.
Monsieur Mélenchon wants to talk.
Ah,
Well, that's what I wanted to
great
say.
minds think alike and fools never
Great
differ.
minds think alike and fools never
Euh,
differ. Here we are.
Madame Leboutier.
Madame Le Boutier,
Oui, merci, Monsieur le maire. Ben, c'est tout
thank
pareil
you.
avec
Well,
conseiller Enseigne. Ça fait qu'on va attendre les
same as
informations.
we'll wait for the
Puis
pack
voir aussi, j'aimerais
and
avoir
see.
peut-être la possibilité de
I'd
discuter
like to
sur le
have
long
the
terme,
possibility of discussing on
peut-être
a long
une
term
autre temps, sur
some other
peut-être
time
un
the
investissement dans
difference
notre parc industriel
if
versus
we put
dans le
condition in the
centre-ville où on
industrial
est
park uh,
euh,
compared to here.
très
That is a development.
inquiète et puis qui est hot. Ça fait que de voir
That's a hot
justement aussi les opportunités.
subject and see if the opportunities. present themselves. Thank you.
Merci.
Thank you.
Alors,
So,
ce qui reste à faire, c'est vraiment une
what is
résolution
left to be
des
done is a
résultats. Il n'y en a
resolution.
pas.
No, not even
S'il n'y a
that.
rien
No,
d'autre, on va passer
there's nothing
au
else. We'll
prochain
go
item.
to the next
On va
item
continuer
and
avec
we'll continue with
Monsieur, Monsieur Gérard.
Shigera.
Excusez-moi.
Sorry.
Alors, question du public, on a déjà parlé.
Question from the public. We
OK,
talk about it.
on n'a rien reçu.
We
Alors,
received
on
nothing.
passe
Okay.
à l'item numéro 9, l'adoption des
Number
minutes du
nine, adoption of the minutes
la réunion du
of the
12
meeting of July
juillet.
the
Est-ce qu'il y aurait
12th.
des
If
discussions?
someone would like to
Donc,
make a motion, moved by
c'est
Councillor
euh,
uh,
Turgeon Roy
Turgeon-Roy,
et appuyé par Councillor
seconded by
Thibodeau.
Councillor Thibodeau. On the question.
Aucune question.
No
Alors, si
question.
personne n'a
All
de
those in
questions,
favor say aye.
si avis contraire par
Contrary
rapport
minded nay.
alors, le procès verbal de la réunion du
So
12 juillet est
carried.
accepté et ce
The
n'est plus
minutes is accepted as such, and
item
that brings us to item
10. En
10
même temps avec
motion starting with
l'item 10.1.1 demande
10.1.1
exemption
request for
du bruit
exemption,
excessif. Monsieur
excessive noise.
Simard, excusez-moi.
Monsieur Simard,
Monsieur Simard.
Monsieur Simard,
Oui, merci, Monsieur le maire.
thank you,
Ici,
worship.
il s'agit d'une demande dans le cadre
This is a
du
request
S9. C'est un cours
uh,
limité qui permet des
S9. It's a
exemptions pour
small
certaines
that
situations.
allows some noise
La
except for
raison,
some exception.
il est permis de célébrer
It's
jusqu'à
allowed to
21 heures
celebrate up
et il
to
permet aussi les personnes
a
pouvant
certain
rester en
time, and
mariage jusqu'à
they're
minuit
asking to
pourront
celebrate their wedding
aussi
up to
accepter
midnight.
cette
So we ask
exemption.
you to accept that exemption.
Le processus, puis tout
They
le reste.
followed the process and everything else.
Merci pour la
Thank you
lecture de la
for
résolution.
the reading of the resolution.
Monsieur Rideau.
Monsieur Brideau.
Merci, Monsieur le maire.
Thank you, worship.
Conformément
That
à l'article
pursuant to Section 4 of Bylaw S-9 2018 prohibiting excessive noises, Council authorized an exemption to said bylaw in order to allow a wedding reception on the property located at 349 Bellevue Street on September the 4th, 2021 until midnight. I so move, Your Worship. Moved by Councilor Brideau, seconded by Councilor Godet. On the question.
Aucune question. Oui,
No
excusez-moi,
question.
Madame
Yes, Ms. Godbout.
Merci. Je voulais prendre
Thank you.
l'occasion de
I
féliciter
want
les
the opportunity to
populations pour
congratulate the
la
citizens
nomination
who made the
dans le
application for
courrier
the
pour
amendment.
Fleury Joseph
It's
en
a lot
personne.
better than the people on
Et j'aimerais
Joseph
juste m'assurer
Street. And I would like
s'il n'y a
to
pas de
tell the people who are
renversation
listening
juridique
that
avec
by doing this,
police ou des explications
we avoid
et
calling the
qu'il y
police.
aurait plus de fracas. Alors, on
There's
apprécie
a lot of
vraiment la
harassment.
façon
We
loyale
thank the
parce
people
qu'ils ne savent pas
who
comment
follow the
il y a
rules
des nouvelles
and
personnes qui écoutent
how
la
good it
radio.
is for the whole neighborhood. And
En tout cas,
anyway,
c'est regrettable
it's
qu'il n'y
unfortunate
ait pu
that
avoir
my
les
neighbors were
bénéfices
unable to
de
have the
l'événement.
same
Alors, merci
benefit last weekend.
au travers de cette
That's all.
résolution.
Thank you. I'm in favor.
Merci.
Thank
Alors,
you.
s'il n'y a pas d'autres
If there's
questions,
no other
j'en
question,
vois pas.
I don't see any.
C'est la parole
All those in
au
favor say aye.
oui.
Oui.
Non.
Contrary minded
Merci.
nay.
La résolution est adoptée telle que présentée.
Carried as presented.
Item 10.1.2, demande
10.1.2
de
a grant
agrément pour
requests for Habitat for Humanity.
Monsieur Simard.
Jusima,
Si bien Habitat pour l'humanité a présenté un dossier
Habitat for Humanity
d'identification de
presented
personnes
to
qui
their
n'ont pas
planning
obtenu de
department
confirmation
to
de
have a
ce
free
dossier-là. Ce n'est pas
license
permis par l'article
permit.
11 pour la
This is
communauté.
not allowed under
Ce qui
the
paraîtrait
local governance.
accepté
It's
dans
something
le
that
courrier
would have been
de
accepted
notification,
by
mais
the
nous
people
n'avons pas pu.
planning, but
Ce qui a été fait par la suite, ils
what
ont
was done
demandé au
afterwards,
loisir de vérifier la
they
politique de
asked the
vente
recreational to look at our
si
policy
cette
to
demande-là
see if this
qualifiait.
request
Ce
could
n'est
qualify itself
c'est pas le
under
cas.
one of our policies. It's not the case either.
Donc, ce que Habitat pour l'humanité
So
voudrait
what
faire,
Habitat
c'est
for
c'est
Humanity is to present a request to the
on
council,
parle de
the equivalent
1166
$1,166.
Donc,
So
compte tenu que la mission de cet organisme-là,
since the
c'est
mission of that
d'offrir aux
organization
familles la
is
possibilité
to
d'avoir
help give the
de
family
logement
possibility of
sécurisé,
becoming owner
le but du fait est
of their building, and since it would help a family to live in Dieppe, and considering the success that that organization has known in Dieppe, we recommend to accept the thousand some dollars. That's what we're presenting. For the reading of the resolution, Mrs. Turgeon-Roy.
Je propose que le conseil
I move that
autorise
council
la
authorize a
donation
donation in the amount of one thousand one hundred $166 be given to Habitat for Humanity. 1,000, not a million.
Avec ce chiffre que la ville de
I know
Dieppe
it's a small figure for the city of Dieppe, but $1,166 be given to Habitat for Humanity, and further authorize that expenses be defrayed from account 1-2-20-28-2310, general operating budget funding and grants to organization. New requests. So move.
ici proposée par
Moved by
Councillor
Councillor
Roy avec
Turgeon-Roy, seconded
Councillor
by
Thibodeau.
Councillor Thibodeau. Other question?
Question, Madame Godbout.
Question, Ms.
Je
Godbout.
questionne juste
Thank
une
you.
minute. Là, on dit que ça
Asking
ne
if you could
s'inscrit pas dans la
clarify.
politique de dons.
It
Comment
says
est-ce
it's
que la
not
ville,
in the
ça sortit du budget de
look
fonctionnement
at the
général,
budget of
est-ce que c'est
general
supposé
operation
donner tous les mois?
subsidy
Est-ce que
to
c'est conforme à notre politique de
grants.
subvention?
Is that
Et sinon, est-ce que c'est le bon
well? Is
catégorie où on
this a
donne
good
ces fonds-là?
category to
On
to
va, on a
to
vérifié avec
consider? We check it out.
compte budgétaire de
As
la
for the
municipalité
budgetary with the
pour
finance, and they
vérifier
confirm
exactement avec
that it's
le bon compte
conform with the
compte
good,
budgétaire.
the right account of general operation.
Cet aspect-là, oui.
As far as that goes, yes. The answer is
Une
yes.
politique
Do we have a
pour avoir un
policy
fonctionnement particulier,
as for that account?
à mon avis.
The answer is no, in my opinion.
Donc, je suis en faveur de la résolution.
I'm in favor of the resolution. Maybe in the future we could
Nos
look
comptes
at the
budgétaires
finance and the policy and the criteria,
moi, la
because
présomption que tu as quand tu as une catégorie de
the
fonds, c'est que
assumption when you have a
ça a
category,
été émis
these are
conformément
funds
aux
that were
règlements
issued
subventionnatoires.
uh,
Donc, on entend
according to the grants, and we have one that is outside of that. But
subvention. Est-ce qu'on peut réanimer ça dans le futur? Merci.
so could we look at it in the future? Thank you.
Noté. Merci.
Noted. Thank you.
Autre question?
Other question?
Question pour
If not,
la question, ceux qui sont en
for the
faveur?
question, all those in favor say aye.
L'avis n'est pas
Contrary minded, nay.
La résolution est adoptée telle que
Carried as presented.
et ça nous amène maintenant
That brings us now to
10.2.1
10.2.1
d'Untitled
loan request.
Oui, dans ce
Yes,
cas-ci, le 26
in
avril,
this case, on April 26,
on s'est
2021,
engagé à réaliser
the
un
council
ouvrage
decided to complete AGL
rendu à l'étape de
renovation towards the net zero projects. We're ready to make a request for credit. The amount is $2 million. By reading the text, you will see that the FCM will contribute $500,000 to the town. The city will only need 1 million, and that's over and above other subsidies that are in the machine, as we would say, and one subsidy and be power. I don't remember exactly the amount. I think it's 50,000 or something like that. Maybe it's more. So we're at the step to make the request for borrowing. To read the resolution, Mrs.
Boudreau.
Boudreau.
Merci, Monsieur le Maire.
Your Worship,
Que le
that
Conseil
council
autorise
authorized that a request be submitted to the Municipal Capital Borrowing Board to the municipalities FCM in order to finance capital expenditure for a duration not exceeding 10 years
des municipalités
for the project
prévu de financer
entitled
une dépense supplémentaire d'une durée maximale
AGL
de 10 ans
renovations
par différents
towards net
contribuables
zero
LNRZ
capital
vers
component.
FCM volet immobilisation. Je le propose.
I so move.
Merci. Proposé par
Thank you.
Councillor Boudreau.
Moved by Councillor Brideau, seconded by Councillor Lantin.
Councillor Lantin
Councillor Lantin,
sur la question.
on the question.
Aucune question.
No question. All those in favor say aye.
Cela dit,
Oui.
Contrary minded, nay.
la résolution est adoptée telle que
Carried as presented.
prochain item, demande
Next
numéro
item,
1
loan request for the fire truck.
Explication, Monsieur Simard.
Explanation, Mr. Sibar. Well, in this case, in 2017, the city bought a fire truck. Location buy it's something new. There was an emergency at that time, and that new practice was offered. So we took the opportunity. The total amount for the purchase was 1.7 million. We proceeded with that rental and purchase, it without going through the capital borrowing board, and we had to go through the step of the borrowing board. Now we are, uh, we can make a request for a loan for the sum for the balance without 676,000 for the ladder truck and $333. That is what it's just a change.
La lecture de la
For the
résolution,
reading of the resolution,
Monsieur le conseiller
Councillor
Brideau.
Brideau. Your worship, that council authorized that a request be submitted to the municipal capital borrowing board for the authorization to borrow the maximum amount of $1,029,000 in order to finance a capital expenditure as follow: fire truck with ladder, capital lease, an amount of $696,000 for a duration of 65 months, and another fire truck rescue, capital lease, for an amount of $333,000 for a duration of 70 months. I shall move your move by Councilor Brideau, seconded by Councilor Godet. On the question.
Sur la question, Madame Godbout.
The question, Ms. Goodbout.
Juste une question de suivi
A
auprès
question, follow-up
M.
question.
Melançon. En termes
Monsieur Melanson,
de la vérification pour
let's do
l'exercice financier de
the
cette année,
check-up for the
quand
financial
est-ce qu'on vérifie
statement
un
for that
une
year.
garde de compte
When the auditor
ou
come
c'est
to
quelque
take a
chose
look
qu'ils vérifient?
at the accounts,
Puis
that's
avez-vous
something they
remis
check.
déclaration de cette année-là?
We did a return on the account of that year, or is that an opportunity that was missed? We'll defer the question to our treasurer, Mr. Steve Landry, who would have the answer. If not, we'll come back with the answer.
Monsieur Landry, bonsoir.
Mr. Landry, good evening. Hi. Answer your question, Ms. Godbout. We did not do any follow-up with the auditors, but they were checked. They were audited at that time, and the loan was part of the calculation of the debt, the total of the debt. But how can I say it? It's an error that is being changed at this time. Was just to see when we received the audited financial statement.
Notre compréhension, appréciation de ce qui est vérifié est importante. Donc,
It's important to appreciate what is audited. I wanted to know, and I understand that that figure was part of the ratio, but
exclusivement vérifié peut-être à la clôture, donc on peut approcher quelques options.
normally when it's big amounts like this, it is audited. The loan that was made, it followed the rules well. So accounting wise, everything was in order, but
Ah, merci.
thank you.
Si je comprends bien, le fait
If I understand the
probablement
fact,
on n'a pas passé à travers le
probably we
bureau,
did not go through them for that
c'est
loan, but that's exactly it. We had to ask them the permission. We went to borrow without going through them, without their permission.
c'est une location by the purchase.
It's a rental, so it was not a purchase, but the amount of over a 10-year period. What do we do?
Il faut demander la question, comment
We have to ask
c'est
a question.
différent que
How is this any different than,
municipalité
let's say, municipality that will build a new building of 21, 22, 24, $25 million, And they don't go through.
un lease to own ou
They make a lease to own. Is that it?
comment ça c'est différent de ce que nous autres on a fait?
How is that any different
Dans
than
cette
what we
question-là,
did? Did someone go
t'es
through that
renseigné
question?
aux affaires municipales?
Big brain municipal affairs. Who can answer? Well, we did not do any follow up, but in my opinion, it should be the same situation as what we're going through. They would have to ask
Ça veut
permission.
pas dire qu'ils refusent.
It didn't doesn't mean they will refuse.
Je
It
te permets
mean,
absolument.
if I may,
On regarde dans la documentation qui a été fournie
we
à
look at
partir de
the
la page
documentation
90.
that was
C'est
provided
ça, à la page
to
90 de
support
la
at
lettre
page
du
90
ministère
of the letter
du ministère de l'Environnement et Gouvernements locaux.
to the
Et c'est écrit
Department of
clairement sur
Government. It
le
says
règlement sur
paragraph
les fonds
6.1
propres
of
de
the
la municipalité.
Capital Borrowing Board.
Ce qui
Uh,
fait que je vais
Foresee
lire
what
et
I
donc
will
ça
read
ne
you.
peut pas passer
Municipality cannot
engagé ou
go to a
de
contract
façon
or be
quelconque une dépense
restricted
exigeant
and
du
then
locataire qui
uh,
garantit une location
that requires a guarantee or acquisition is mentioned in the law.
contrat de location
So we don't
alors
talk
que
about rental. We talk about rental and acquisition,
qui est expressément
and it
mentionné
is
dans le
mentioned
document subordonné
expressly.
possédé par
So
notre
we have to go through a loan to the
D'accord,
borrowing
Alex.
board once again.
On va pas m'attarder, là, parce qu'on est déjà en retard.
Don't want to delay. We're already late, but
Je pense que ça vaut la peine de demander la question à
I think it's
Maurice,
worth
parce qu'on
to ask a
c'est assez
question.
différent
How
de
is
ce qui
that
est
any
arrivé
different than the
présentement.
scenario I
On
presented
l'a vécu souvent.
concerning the
On l'a
municipality?
vu chez nos voisins,
We've
pratiquement.
seen it with our
Donc,
neighbors. Let's be clear about it.
OK.
It's not
Est-ce qu'on
allowed
peut
anymore.
procéder
What
aux
was done in the past. It's something
questions?
that would have been accepted
OK. Bon,
before. Anyway,
peut-être
okay, let's go.
avez-vous besoin d'une discussion?
Sometimes maybe I
Est-ce que
ask
c'est
too
partagé?
many
Est-ce que tout le monde
questions,
est en
but
faveur de la
all those in
résolution?
favor of the resolution,
Par un oui.
say aye.
Vous de l'avis contraire?
Contrary minded, nay.
On n'a pas de choix. C'est
We
oui.
don't have a choice. It's
Alors,
yes.
la résolution est acceptée telle que présentée.
Carried as presented.
Ça nous amène aux
That brings us
nominations
to appointments,
pour
10.3.1, Union
l'Union des
of the
municipalités de
Municipalities of New Brunswick.
oui, essentiellement, c'est de nommer M. Jean-Marc Brideau.
Appoint Monsieur Jean-Marc Brito as representative for the Union of
Alors,
Municipalities.
essentiellement,
So essentially,
pour la résolution,
for the resolution,
Madame Godbout.
Que
Mrs.
le
Godbout,
conseil nomme le conseiller
that
Jean-Marc Brideau
council
à titre de
appoints Councillor
représentant
Jean-Marc
pour une
Brito on the
durée
board of
renouvelable
directors of the
jusqu'au
Union of
31 décembre
Municipalities of New Brunswick for a
2023
term
et
ending
après
June the
sera
12th,
renouvelé.
2023. I so move.
Alors, je
Moved by
soumets la
Councillor
question
Godbout,
à
seconded by Councillor
Roy.
Turgeon Roy.
Sur la question,
On the
est-ce que
question, all those in
de l'avis du conseiller
favor
fédéral par un
say
oui
aye.
ou de l'avis des
Contrary
membres
minded,
qui voulaient la
nay.
place par un non?
If someone wants the job instead of him, say no.
Alors, la résolution est adoptée par
Carried.
11 Merci.
Thank you.
Merci.
Thank you.
Amusez-vous bien.
Have fun.
Du côté des opérations, y a-t-il
Operation
Monsieur
Tender Award, Mr. Shiban. Yes, a tender award installation, maintenance, removal, and storage. We ask you to grant the contract for municipal to Decor Expal Inc. at a cost for 2 years of $102,000 plus HST. It's the only company that put a tender. We've done business with them for a few years and we're happy with them. For the reading, Councillor Thibodeau.
Merci, Monsieur le maire.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Que le
That
conseil
council
municipal
award a
approuve
contract to the
la
installation,
résolution
maintenance, removal, and storage of municipal decoration to
ainsi
Decor
que
Experts Inc. at the total cost of $102,000 plus HST, and authorize that expenses be defrayed from account number 1-2-50-72-72-2710, general operating budget, beautification, Christmas summer decoration. I so move, Your Worship. Moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Lemoutier. On the question,
aucune question.
no
Ceux qui sont
question, all those in
pour
favor
dire
say aye.
oui. Ceux qui sont contraires,
Contrary minded, nay.
résolution est adoptée telle que
Carried
présentée.
as presented.
Appel d'offres pour la
Call
deuxième
for tender for the
extension
footbridge Satan Sam Rotary Park. Yes, from 2021 to 2023. I'll be the host of
On a
the
toujours reconnu que cet événement-là
Canada
est
Cup
organisé
for a
pour
mountain
les
bike,
jeunes passeurs
and we
qui
have
devient
to
une
have a
tradition
fence that will allow a better circulation, more
de,
safety
de
for
chaque année.
several
Donc, c'est pour
users
ça
of the
que
Macri
c'est une nouvelle
Rotary
tradition
Park. The
qui
total
débute
is
cette année.
$64,500,
De 24 500
and
avec le support de
24,500 have been
la
granted
municipalité
already
et
by
la
the
compagnie
Department of
Ville.
Tourism
Donc, on
Heritage.
demande d'autoriser le
And
personnel à
we
effectuer
asked
un tour
to
gratuit
authorize to call a tender for the building of that
Merci pour la lecture de
fence.
la résolution.
For the reading of the for the
Euh,
reading.
Merci,
Thank you.
Monsieur.
Non.
Nothing.
Alors,
That
merci, Monsieur le maire, que le
thank you.
conseil autorise
That
le
council
directeur
authorized the
général
operation department staff to call the
de la
tenders for the
construction
construction
au parc
of a
Rotary
footbridge at the Centennial Rotary Park
afin
that will
d'autoriser
be
l'ouverture
used for the
du
Canada Cup
réseau de
mountain
ballons
bike
et un circuit
event and
cyclable
will promote
lors
the
de la
better
construction.
pedestrian circulation for the users of the said park trail as well move. Moved by Councillor Latang, seconded by Councillor Nanette. Other question?
Aucune question.
No question. All those in favor say aye.
Oui.
Et l'avis
Oui.
contraire?
Contrary minded nay.
L'avis contraire par un non. La résolution est adoptée ainsi
Carried
présentée.
as presented.
Et l'item 10.4, excusez, on a passé. On est rendu aux arrêtés municipaux. Il n'y en a pas.
Municipal bylaws, there's none.
Avis de motion?
Notice of motion,
Non.
there's none.
On continue avec
All
les
right,
demandes
let's
de
go
renseignement.
on with inquiries and announcement by
On va
members of
commencer avec le
council.
conseil et on
And
va commencer avec
we'll start
la
with
gang
the
sur, qui sont sur le virtuel.
gang who are
On va
away,
poser tout de suite
virtual in the
les
order I
questions
have them, Monsieur
à
Lantin,
Madame Boudreau
followed
et
by
Madame
Ms. Boudreau and Mrs. Leboutier.
Rien pour moi, Monsieur le maire. Tout est
Nothing for me,
bien
maybe only to
OK.
mention
Pour moi, ça devrait arrêter là.
nothing should stop there.
C'est vrai.
That's true.
Non, juste peut-être
No,
prendre une minute pour
just to take a minute to congratulate
Geneviève Lalonde
participation
aux
of
Olympiques.
Geneviève Lalonde at the Olympic.
C'est
So
passé sur ses deuxièmes
I think
Olympiques. Puis c'est
it's
une
her second Olympic,
de la
and
région, donc ça va lui
it's
faire
a
plaisir.
girl from the
Alors,
region.
rien pour moi.
It's
Puis
nothing for
j'espère qu'elle va
me,
passer
and
un
I
bel
hope
été.
you'll have a nice
Merci bien.
end of summer, Miss Boudreau.
Merci, Monsieur le maire.
Your
J'ai
worship,
pas grand-chose non plus à
don't
vous
have
dire,
much to
mais
say,
je veux vous souhaiter un bon
but I want to
restant d'été,
wish
un bon
you a
rendu aux
good
jeunes
end of
cette
summer and a
année.
good
Et
entrance for the
je veux dire
young,
aussi
the
que j'ai
children in
beaucoup ralenti
September.
mon travail
I've reduced
depuis
my
ma job.
working hours
Je
for
suis
my
plus
first
seule
job,
à
so
rencontrer
I'm
les gens
available to meet the citizens
plus souvent.
more
Les
often.
mercredis sont libres si
Friday are
vous
free
avez
if
besoin
ever
de
you
quelque chose
want
à
to
me dire.
talk with me. If you
Je suis là
have
pour vous. Merci.
concerns, I'm available for you. Thank you.
Madame
Thank
Boudreau
you,
et
Mrs.
Madame
Boudreau.
Leboutier.
Miss Leboutier, Mrs. Leboutier.
Merci, Monsieur le maire. Ben,
Thank you,
étant
worship. Well,
la semaine de nos grandes festivités
being in the
et la
week
fête du
of
cancer qui s'en vient,
festivities and national holiday coming up,
j'aimerais souhaiter un
I would like to
international
wish a happy Acadian
de la grande entourage.
holiday to everybody and to Acadia as a whole. For August the 15th,
Un autre, j'aimerais aussi souhaiter bonne
I would
chance,
like
mais
to
un
wish good
énorme
luck,
félicitations aussi à
but
Geneviève Lalonde,
congratulations to Geneviève
qui
Lalonde, but good luck
présidente de Dieppe,
to our resident Stemi
participe
Fernet,
aux
who
Jeux
will participate
paralympiques
in the
du
Paralympic
5 septembre.
tournament from August
J'espère
20th to
que les Jeux
September the
auront lieu
5th. I think that city will promote in social media
bientôt comme
that race
on
very
s'est
short as
engagé
Moncton did it
avec
so well
Geneviève Lalonde.
with
C'était vraiment notre Camille.
Miss
J'espère qu'elle
Lalonde.
viendra nous représenter. J'ai
Good,
hâte de voir ça.
good luck, Camille. I know
Puis
she will represent it well. And lastly, I would
pour
like to
les
invite, I don't think
résidents,
we'll have a meeting,
de
the
Dieppe et de
residents
Greater
of Dieppe
Moncton, on va avoir
and the
notre
Greater
belle
Moncton will have a
cérémonie
ceremony on August the
à
22nd.
1h30 à
It'll
15h.
be 1.5 hours
Je
at
souhaite une bonne chance et tout le succès
1604. That's all. Good summer, everybody.
Merci bien.
Thank
On
you.
va continuer dans la même
We'll
ligne.
continue similar way.
Dans ce sens-là, ce soir,
I
Madame
started in that
Madame Boudreau.
area, Mrs. Goodbow.
Merci, Mayor.
Thank you, worship.
Alors, pour moi, je voulais
So
signaler
for me, I
le
want to
mercredi
mention that
qui
the
s'en
at
vient,
the
le
App
19
Canada Cup get
Rotary
ready from the
Club,
19th to the
c'est la
20th of it.
Fédération
The
canadienne
best
de circulation de la musique
athletes in Canada
canadienne.
will meet in the
En juillet,
Rotary Club of
quelle
Saint Sam.
organisation
It's home, the organizing committee.
avez-vous les meilleurs cyclistes du monde
Well,
et
all
quelle
the
partie
best
de votre
cyclists and the
organisation?
new
Pour moi, le
improve
cyclisme, la vie avec mon
mountain
époux, assez
bike
belle
park, and it will
activité.
contribute to that
Les
activity.
bénévoles sont encore de
But
choisir
volunteers are
si vous
still
avez des
being
bénévoles
seek, so please register to help if you are available, but also
pendant ces
the
dates-là.
family,
Nos enfants peuvent
the
vraiment
Rotary
découvrir
Club,
l'excellence de notre
so the
culture
children can really see the
et savoir
excellence
que
and
les
to
sports
show
de
them a sport
musique
that could be of
sont
interest to them,
internationaux.
knowing that our
C'est vraiment
community
excellent. On a aussi
installation, our
des
national.
bénévoles.
Um,
Le 20 juillet, j'ai
on
participé au
July
conseil
20th, I
d'administration
participated to a
du
board of
CAMA.
directors of
Merci,
MACMA.
Monsieur le maire,
So thank you
ainsi
to
qu'au
worship,
président
Councillor Brito, Monsieur
de
Lanson,
l'activité a
for
été
their
facile
support to
d'identifier
identify
cette
how we
organisation
can support
parce
that
qu'ils font un
organization.
excellent
They
travail
refer to
professionnel
offer a
ainsi
French language training. It's important that
qu'excellent en
these
français.
people be
Les
exposed to the
organisations
French teaching to improve immigration in Dieppe. Also, I want to mention that I'm happy to be part of 100 women who are interested in this. A woman who cares for mountain review in Dieppe. It's a group of women who are determined to help the community and have direct impact on our city. 100% of donation go directly to nonprofit organization by make a difference. Our purpose is to have 100 women in the area. Everybody gives $100 every 3 months, and the gift is given to an organization according to the wish of the participants. But I noted in the last few time that we mentioned organization from the app. There's very little mention. And so I'd be happy if you know an organization, nonprofit organization should be mentioned and could benefit $10,000 or contribution. I'd be happy to nominate them through our contact the web page.
L'autre chose, je voulais juste signaler
The
avant
other
qu'on
thing I want
oublie, là,
to mention,
on est dans le chrono, là, monsieur le maire. Un rappel qu'on est en période de vacances.
reminder for
Plusieurs
vacation. I know that for many of us, vacation allow us to come together as a family and do something else. It's not the case for everybody. Some of our citizens in Dieppe are here. They spend their whole vacation in Dieppe, but we have excellent installation. Our trails and everything else doesn't take much to change. The idea is go out, do not stay at home, and go use the trails that we have. We work hard to provide you with these trails, and we hope you will continue to use them as much as possible. And last thing I want to mention, I want to thank Monsieur Jean-Claude Basque, who has a great article in the Cadie Nouvelle reminding us the importance of diversity within our downtown and remind us I believe in it and to assure our citizen that we believe in it and we want to encourage that in the meetings to come. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Conseillère.
Councillor Turgeon.
Deux petites
Thank you.
choses. Je
Two
voulais
small
signaler
things I
que
want
pendant les
to
nouvelles
mention,
conventions
similarly that the other councillors have talked about our
de la
athletes from the
il y a une
region.
jeune résidente
There's a
d'ici
young
qui s'appelle
resident of
Eliane
Dieppe called
Desjardins,
Eliane Desjardins,
styliste au box lacrosse. Je sais pas si vous
who
connaissez
is a
un petit
great
peu.
boxer
Lacrosse
in
est un
lacrosse.
représentant de notre ville
Well,
qui
she's
va
the only
participer à
representative from our city
Saint-Jean.
that will participate in a
Puis j'ai
tournament in St.
signé
John.
ce
And
sport-là
I found out that
qui
that
s'appelle
sport is coming back to the
Eliane.
Canada game. And
Elle
Eliane,
a la chance de
who lives in
participer
Dieppe,
aux
has an opportunity
prochains
to
jeux.
participate
Va
in the
participer
next
pour le compte
games.
de l'équipe
And she'll probably
de
be a
New-Brunswick.
member of the New-Brunswick team, and she has a chance to qualify herself. So I wanted to wish her good luck.
Aussi,
And
je
also,
voulais
I would like
remercier
to
aussi
thank
bravo là, aux
say
employés
bravo to the
de Dieppe
employees of the
qui
city of
travaillent
Dieppe,
de paye de
those who
lundi
work
à la programmation, à
for the
l'entretien
programming and the
des
maintenance of the Rotary Park
employés au parc.
during the
Je
summer
remercie
at the park. I
vraiment
have excellent
les
comments from the
citoyens
citizens.
britanniques.
It's
Là,
moving, it's dynamic, people
c'est
like
les
that.
citoyens
And I want
canadiens
to invite the
britanniques
people who didn't
aussi
have an opportunity
beaucoup.
to attend.
J'encourage à aller
It's
faire
not been
une petite
very
randonnée
nice, but
culturelle
please go and visit the Rotary Park.
pendant
And
ces 7 semaines.
we have beautiful weather.
Aussi,
Take
aller
advantage of it and go see the
à
program for August
New-Brunswick, il y a
15th.
des activités aussi.
Sunday there will be activities for the
Merci et
family.
fin
On
d'été
that,
conclu.
have a good end of summer and happy August 15th. Monsieur Thibodeau. Your Worship, I want to wish a happy Acadian holiday to all the citizens of Dieppe, and I hope that our friends, our English friends, will celebrate with us that August the 15th. It's part and parcel of our heritage, and I hope also that vaccine will raise their presence. Monsieur Brideau, Your Worship. Well, since my colleagues have already wish happy August the 15th, I want to say be proud of who we are. Good end of summer and a happy 15th of August. Monsieur Godet. Yes, to your worship. Similarly, I would like to wish a happy August the 15th to everybody. Let's celebrate it. And that's about all I have to say. Thank you. Similarly, I want to wish a happy celebration of August the 15th to all the citizens. There will be events that are being planned for August 15th at the Rotary Park as of 3:30. There will be music from 5:55. There'll be a tomorrow that will leave the Arthur Gilles Blanc Center. It will be difficult to bring us back to 2019. Well, the huge amount of the Acadian world Acadian, but we'll be there. And later on, the ceremonies will try to keep it as short as possible, as brief as possible, to have music, civic gotro, and at the end of the evening from 8:30, music with abueto. So, good tatamar to one and all. Thank you, and good night, everybody.